Hey everybody, Terry the Real Estate Guy. Thanks for tuning in. Houses are not overpriced, and I'm going to show you why. Now, for those of you that have clicked over here and ready to throw me under the bus, I need you to stay with me for this entire video so I can show you how houses actually are much more affordable today than they were even 2 or 3 years ago. Real estate's always a math problem, and we're going to work out that math today, and we're going to cover it in 3 simple steps. 1, I'm going to prove to you that houses are cheaper to own than you might think. 2, I'm going to show you how you can run these exercises on your own with some resources I've linked below. And 3, I'm going to run you through the what-if scenarios that take place based on what I'm about to teach you, okay? So now, in order for our exercise to be valid, we have to agree on some fundamental things about this exercise. 1, we need to agree that we were in a housing shortage long before the interest rates kind of plummeted down into the 2% range. Most of this has to do with the lack of supply of houses being built in the last Great Recession. So there's a lot of content out there on this written by economists and very smart people, but for the sake of keeping our video moving, that's a topic for another day. 2, as you can see on the Freddie Mac website, even in 2018, the market kind of bounced around between 4% on the low end and 4.9% on the high end in November of that year. And so what I'm saying is rates have been low for a long time. In fact, you can go back to 2015, 2014, 2013, and you can see rates bouncing around between 3.5% and 4.5%. I mean, they've been that way forever. And if you want to go back to find out where rates were like above 5%, you actually have to go back to 2008. We would be in a housing shortage today if rates were 3.5%, 4%, and 4.5%. I don't believe the interest rates are driving a big demand in housing. I think that demand in housing is coming from the fact that the last Great Recession, real estate got punished, and houses literally were not built for 2, 3, 4 years, depending on which market you're in, okay? All right, we have to agree that as of the filming of this video, a 20% down borrower with really good credit can easily get a 2.5 to 2.75% interest rate. In fact, I had a friend with really good credit that got 1.99, the only guy I know that got below 2%. But we're going to keep it conservative, and I'm going to say 2.5 to 2.75%. And the last thing is we are going to take the exact same house. I'm going to show you that the same house that was purchased in 2018, okay, for a 4.5% interest rate mortgage, and a house today purchased at 20% higher, that you actually are going to win with a lower interest rate. I'm going to agree with you that prices, from a price standpoint, if you're just going to take the average price of a house, are high. I absolutely get that. I understand that. I know that to be true. But when you have to factor in a whole other array of things packaged with that house, particularly if you are going to get a mortgage, and that is what we are going to look at today. All right, let me bring up this particular house. It's a $300,000 house that was purchased in 2018. The borrower put 20% down. We're just going to use that. You can put 5%, 10%. In fact, there are loans out there where you don't have to put any money down on a loan. However, in this particular scenario, we're going to say that the borrower put 20% down. And as you can see on the loan inputs, I really like this spreadsheet, and a big shout out to Vertex 42. I have no idea who they are. I'm assuming they just put spreadsheets together, but I like this one because it has some charts, if you like charts and graphs, and it has yearly accumulation, which we're going to look at down below. All right, so let's punch in the numbers. Loan amount, $240,000. A term, that's a 30-year loan. The annual interest rate is 4.5%. We have 12 months of compounding, which basically means your interest is compounding monthly, and then you've got a 12 payments per year. Okay, so here's your monthly payment of this house. Again, $300,000 purchased in 2018, and we're using an interest rate that would have been used in 2018, 4.5%. You got your number of payments, and then I want you to look at 2 numbers. I want you to look at your total payment, and I want you to look at total interest. If you look at your total payment, that's $437,000 and some change. Just call it $438,000 for easy math. And your total interest is about $198,000 for easy math. Okay, so that's the scenario with this particular house, 123 Anywhere Street, USA. And I realize we can't get that on the coast at San Diego or Miami or New Jersey or the Northeast, but in most parts of the country, you can get a $300,000 house in 2018. This house that was bought back in 2018 comes back on the market again. Same condition, maybe they've added a roof or they've added some value to it, new HVAC, who knows. But this particular house, the same house, 123 Anywhere Street, USA, is coming back on the market. So we just looked at it for 2018, and now it's worth 20% more than it was in 2018. So as of this video, which is early 2021, this house is appreciated 20% in value, which I think is fair, considering all markets, whatever your market is in, could be higher, could be lower, could be about the same. But we're buying this house again. So this seller sells, new buyer comes in, they're gonna buy the house for $360,000. Okay, so when I said we were using the same house, I really meant we were using the same house. Now let's look at our amortization schedule here. So now we have the same house, $360,000 purchased in 2021, and that borrower is going to put 21% down. So now their loan amount is $288,000. Here's all the stuff that we punched in before, except we're going to put in a 2.5% interest rate. And here's your monthly payment, here's your total payment, and here's your total interest. Okay. Now, how does that compare? Well, your total payment here is around $410,000, and your total interest is about rounded up to $122,000. Let me slide this over for you. This is where the big aha is going to take place for you. So if I slide this over, you can see on the left-hand side, we have the house back in 2018 at a 4.5% interest rate, and you have it today at a 2.5% interest rate, even though you're paying 20% more for the house. Look at the total payment. Over the course of 30 years, you have $198,000 in interest over here, and you have $122,000 in interest over here. If you take $198,000 approximately on the left, minus $122,000 on the right, what is that? About, in my head, that's $76,000, I believe. $76,000 in interest savings based on a 2.5% interest rate. Okay, so when people say houses are super expensive, they are expensive, but when you take in an insanely low interest rate and you plan on living in that house, you're actually paying less for the house because of the massive amount of interest savings that you make. In this case, $76,000. Now, many of you were saying, well, Terry, it's unreasonable to think that people would live in a house for 30 years. Well, certainly our parents and grandparents did it, but I understand in an upwardly mobile society and people moving around all the time, I certainly get that, right? And so let's just take it down a notch and let's say, would it be reasonable for somebody to spend 5 to 7 years in a house? Absolutely. My last house, I think we were in it 18 years, but my first house we were in for 5. So I think part of that all comes down to, raising kids, if you have kids and all of that kind of stuff, right? And so, but let's just assume that we're going to talk about a 7-year cycle. So let's go over here and we're going to highlight the 7-year mark, okay, on both of the spreadsheets. So let me bring them up. We'll put them right there side by side, and you can see that down here in the yearly amortization schedule, you have cumulative interest paid in the 4.5% model. So the house back in 2018 that was bought for 4.5% down, or 4.5% interest, $71,000 in cumulative interest. The same exact house that was purchased for $360,000, 20% more, at a lower interest rate, same down payment. You can see that we're at $46,000. That's a savings of $25,000 approximately, right, within a couple $100. $25,000 in interest savings. Now, if you move after year 7, that $25,000, what does that represent in the purchase price? Well, if you go up here and you want to run that math out, you just say, okay, $25,000 divided by 360. That comes out to be, I've got my calculator right here, $25,000 divided by $360,000. That is a 0.6, or that's 6.9%. 6.9%, you're actually paying less principal. That is 6.9% of the house price. Does that make sense? So your savings from this scenario to this scenario is roughly 7%. Almost, I don't want to say you're getting a discount on the house because that's not what's happening. You're actually paying less interest. And that is the benefit of buying today. Even though housing prices are up, hopefully this little exercise has proved to you that it goes down. Now, I'm going to agree with some people out there, Graham Stephan being one. I like Graham Stephan, but in this particular case, I'm going to disagree with him because he makes the comment.
In this video, I'm going to take a stance that you should probably not buy a home right now unless you're prepared to handle 5 scenarios that I'm about to outline.
You just go ahead and rent because of all these extra fees and all the analysis. And but what I'm telling you is this. Well, that's fine. Let's assume that you were to continue to rent at $1,500 a month for the next 7 years. If you're going to rent for $1,500 a month for the next 7 years, let's take out our handy calculator. $1,500 a month times 12 times 7 years, you're going to throw $126,000 out there for rent. That's what you're out. You're completely out. You don't get to retain any of that money. There's no equity. There's no anything. You just spend it for housing. And if you want to be a renter, that's what you're going to do. But if you are thinking about owning, well, that $126,000 that you spent in 7 years, are houses going to be $126,000 cheaper in 7 years than they are right now? No, I doubt they will be. So let's figure this out. A house is a great savings vehicle because that $1,500 a month that you're spending to your landlord, well, now, look over here. Check this out. Do you see this? Let's go to our 2.5% interest rate here. Do you see this? Line 20. You're putting down $6,529 in principal. You're actually paying down the loan. It's forcing you to save money, and that piggy bank is the house. The house is the piggy bank. Every time you make a monthly payment, right? Here's your monthly payment, $1,137.95. There's a certain portion of that every month that's going towards your principal. And in the course of a year, that's $6,529.86. So if you are not a saver by nature, this is one way to guarantee yourself saving money. Look at year 2. You're putting in another almost $7,000 for a total of $13,000. Now you're building that towards your home's equity by paying down principal. Again, piggy bank. Now that money just sits there. It's not earning anything, right? But the asset, the house itself, hopefully is appreciating in value. And even though you'll go through dips of depreciation, on the long term, you're going to win in real estate. Last thing. Here's the last scenario, the what if scenario that I talked about, right? Somebody comes to me and says, okay, Terry, fine. I just had triplets and I'm in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. And there's not enough room for me and my wife, my other kids, plus the triplets that are coming. And to that, I tell you this. Again, I'm going to teach you to continue building wealth in real estate. You have this house. Let's assume this house is a 3-2. What are your options? Well, certainly you could sell, take your equity, and put it in the next house and move on. But why? Why would you want to do that? You have a 2.5% interest rate on this house that you've lived in for 6 or 7 years before you're expecting triplets, right? So what are your options? Well, one, this house would probably rent for $1,800 a month in 6 or 7 years. In fact, it would probably rent for $1,800 a month today. So let's just assume the rent stays the same. It usually goes up, but let's just say it'll stay the same. You'll have a profit of $600 a month if you rent out the house and you continue to build up that cumulative principal that we talked about. Okay? That is awesome. So now you can go, let's say you've saved for another down payment, you go buy another house, you keep this one as a wealth building mechanism, and it pays you $600 a month every year until it's paid off. So after 30 years, whenever that time is, and you've paid the loan off, now instead of it being an $1,800 rental that you're only cash flowing $600 a month, now it's cash flowing $1,800 a month. Who wouldn't want about $22,000, $23,000 a year in extra income or wealth generation? I mean, seriously, that's what you do with this house. Flip side of that is, hey, if you like the house you've lived in for the last 5 to 7 years, and you're going to go buy another house, what if rates are 5%? What if the rates go up and houses, okay, let's assume houses come down a little bit, but let's say rates go up. I just showed you the scenario, what happens when you buy a cheaper house at a higher rate versus a more expensive house at a cheaper rate, didn't I? Why don't you add on to this house? You could put on a great big master suite in the back, maybe an extra bedroom and bathroom for the kids if you wanted to, and you make this house, now you're creating a bigger asset, okay? And you're taking this house that you have almost no interest rate on, almost free money. It's not free, but it's almost free money. And you're going to add on to that house And instead of going and buying another house at a higher rate, you just kind of settle in this place, live in it for 30 years, and then you figure out what the next step is, right? That's it. So there's a what if. What if you're expecting triplets and you don't have enough square footage? What if you decide you want to move? What if you get relocated? If you get relocated, I would park this house with the management company and I would rent it all day long and just get my mailbox money coming in. Okay, hopefully you saw in this scenario the 3 problems that we solved, because everybody says houses are too high. Don't buy a house. Don't buy a house. Graham Stephan has got a whole video on not buying a house. Here's the thing. Step 1. I proved to you that houses are cheaper to own than you might think they are right now. And I showed you how you can run these exercises. Take these spreadsheets, the links are down below, punch in 5%, punch in 10%, play with them on your own and see what you think. And I ran you through some what if scenarios. Now, those of you that clicked over here and that were a naysayer and you stayed with me this whole time, I want to know what you think. Tell me what you think about this scenario, because I believe that still, even today, I know you pay a lot of money for the house, I get it. But when you factor in the interest, which you have to factor in if you're going to get a loan, that I've proven to you that you can win with low interest rates versus a higher purchase price. Again, I'm Terry, the real estate guy. Mash the like button if you made it this far, and congratulations on investing in yourself, and have a great day.